Hey guys, welcome back to the Girls Wing podcast with your host, Angel and Alyssa Walker. It's been a hot minute since we've been on here talking with you guys, and that is because we have been on vacation in Europe. So we're here to give you all the details on the trip.
Yep. And for just a quick explanation on why we went to Europe, because we just spent 2 weeks there with our dad and our brother. Our older sister and our mom were moving our sister into her new home in Florida. But we went to Europe because it's always been on our dad's bucket list to do the running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain. And so this year, both of our parents turned 50. So as a part of my dad's 50th birthday celebration, he was like, all right, well, I'm only getting older. Like, let's do it. Been saving up for this for a while. And so we went for it and spent 2 weeks adventuring before that. And yeah, now we are back safely and excited to tell you guys about what we did, what we ate, what we liked, what we didn't like, what the vibe was. So yeah, super quick to give like baseline context for going into the trip. Angel, can you walk us through like your international travel history?
Um, well, we've been on a family cruise to Mexico and and I think we went on a cruise to the Caribbean or something, but those don't really count too much. But mainly 2 years ago, I went on a mission trip to Nicaragua, so I did that. And we were in Costa Rica for a few days, so that's pretty much it for me.
That's crazy, actually, that that was 2 years ago. I don't know why it just didn't feel like it was that long. But I asked that question just to give you guys some of like a background, essentially, because our brother is essentially in the same boat as Angel with the family trips, and then also he did a mission trip to Haiti. But that's it when it comes to international travel. Neither of them had ever been to Europe. Our dad has done a good bit of international travel here and there for work and different things. I have done a lot of international traveling, actually, been really fortunate and blessed to be able to do several mission trips growing up. So I've been to parts of Latin America, Africa, and like Caribbean area. And then in college, did a couple trips to Europe. So I've been to Spain, France, Monaco, Italy, Greece, Croatia, Albania, Bosnia, like some random different countries in between, and spent some time in a few countries in Thailand, or spent some time in a few countries in Asia and different things. So I've done probably more than my fair share of international travel. So going into this trip, I already was kind of like, okay, it'll be interesting to see how Angel and Nate specifically do with this new culture, new environment, especially the languages of Germany and Switzerland. I wasn't too worried about Spain, but yeah, Angel, what would you say it was like for you being in so many unknowns, particularly like in Germany and Switzerland?
Um, I mean, it was a little awkward when people would try to say something to you and you did not know what they're saying. Um, and oh, but one thing I love is public transportation. Guys, public transportation is just so easy. It's so slay. Like, it's really great in my opinion. That's what I've learned. So when I live in New York City, I'll have a ball.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Angel really was thriving with the public transportation. Our dad did rent a car when we got to Spain. And maybe we'll post a couple clips or something on our Instagram just of I captured some clips of Angel reacting to our dad's driving in Spain. That was quite the experience, but she wasn't a fan, to say the least.
Yeah, that was the scariest part of the whole thing, bro.
Not even us going in to do the running of the bulls.
No.
Okay. Well, anyway, were there other things that like what were some particular dislikes of yours from the trip?
One thing I disliked was the food in Germany was, I won't say awful. It wasn't awful. It just lacked flavor. Um, it doesn't really seem like they use many seasonings there. It's pretty bare bones. And so that was a little difficult. That was pretty difficult for me. I I almost cried the first time I ate a pizza there on like the second day. And from that point on, I would save my pizzas until later dates in case I needed some emergency food.
And crying tears of joy for the record.
Yeah, their pizzas were good. hmm And another thing I disliked was y'all. So as you know, I'm 18 years old. And the legal drinking age in Europe is 18 years old. So I was like, hey, it's my time. I wasn't gonna go crazy or anything, but I was like, this is my chance. And let me tell you,
Her, to be clear, her chance to try things. Like the way that you said that made it seem like you're trying to go buck wild out here, but
oh,
just her chance to
oh,
sample things.
no,
And
just to
she,
sip and see.
yeah, she had already made it clear to me that she was trusting my judgment on like guiding her through like would I like this, would I not? So she wasn't trying to go crazy. I felt like I needed to like help you out there.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't trying to lose control or anything. I quite like having a sound mind. But let me tell y'all, all you adults out there, y'all are scammers. Y'all, y'all are lying to yourselves when you take a sip of alcohol because that stuff is rancid. It is absolutely disgusting. Like I was conned, I was fooled, I was cheated, I was jaded. Um, everything. I was just I was utterly disgusted at the taste. Just the touch on my lip was enough to like the the it all just radiated in my mouth and it just lingered there. And I don't understand how a human being can drink that. Like, I just don't. It was awful.
And what was really interesting for me is that I think I actually was 18, about to turn 19, but I was 18 when I first went to Europe and had the exact same reaction. Like I remember sangria was the first thing that I tried in Spain, and I just like would sample things, champagne. I think all of the things that Angel tried on this trip were things that I tried on my first Europe trip, and I was in the exact same boat. I was like, this is awful, this is terrible. Like why on earth? I would rather just have like the non-alcoholic version of this. And so I could definitely relate, but yeah, so that was kind of an interesting parallel to see. And unfortunately,
And, and let me tell you guys, I was actually scammed because one day all I wanted to do was have some lemon sorbet. We're at a restaurant and I ordered lemon sorbet. Set it right in the dessert section. It comes out in a little flute with a straw. I'm like, okay, lemon sorbet kind of has a thin consistency. Like, this is pretty valid. I drink it, and lo and behold, they put alcohol in my lemon sorbet. And I was appalled. Again, I was cheated, I was conned, I was bamboozled. Literally. Because they didn't tell me they were putting alcohol in my lemon sorbet. All I wanted was lemon sorbet, not lemon sorbet. No, not alcohol with a taste of lemon sorbet. No! I was so sad, I almost cried.
it's so true. I might have to post that video too because I actually caught the moment that Angel tested it and she was not happy. She was not having it. It was actually so funny to me. I felt so bad for her though. So anyway, I think for me, I definitely agree on the German food, and I'm so sorry to anyone who's German, part German, has German relatives down the line, or appreciates and loves German food. Like, I'm sorry. It just, I tried so many different things, and it was literally just okay at best. And I'm not going to go on a tangent about that. If you know our family, you know that we're foodies and we really value good food. And so I just struggled. Angel and I both struggled in Germany. She struggled more than I did because I can kind of just get along and do whatever, but that was not my favorite. And then the flight into Germany also, Lufthansa, I'm sorry. It's my least favorite international airline I've ever flown on officially now. And it wasn't like terrible, but to be fair, it started out with them not having the AC working on the flight. And they were like, we were either gonna cancel the flight or just like make it work and stick with it. And so I'm just like, I sweat a lot naturally. So I'm just dripping sweat on this flight. before we finally got in the air. And like it did eventually cool off to the point where I needed my blanket or different things. But not a fan of the flight overall. Not a great movie selection. But I just popped my melatonin and slept because we were going to be flying technically through the night and landing in Germany at like 7 a.m. So that, and those were kind of my standout things. So as we talked about German food and our dislikes for that, on the flip side of that, Angel, what would you say were some of the favorite things that you ate or drank throughout the trip?
One thing I really liked was this chocolate Toblerone mousse we had in Switzerland. You know, the Swiss are known for their chocolate. It was it was slay. It was yummy. It was one of the first things that I actually ate all of my food of. Um, because we had just came from Germany. Another food I really liked, again, my pizzas were all great. They were so good. Um, Let me see. Another thing I liked was Coca-Cola with lemon in it. And I don't normally drink Coca-Cola or like brown sodas because I don't normally like them. I'm more of a Sprite Fanta girly, Mountain Dew. But I got Coca-Cola. When they give you Coca-Cola, they put a lemon slice, a slice of lemon in your cup, and it was actually mighty fine. It was pretty tasty, and I was drinking that up. Let's see, was there anything else? Um, when we were in Switzerland, we went to this place to get like strawberries in a cup and they poured like warm chocolate sauce on them. The strawberries were real tasty and the chocolate, but like the strawberries in particular, real tasty. But yeah, the desserts I had were all pretty delicious. Not my lemon sorbet. That was rancid. But I had lemon gelato one day. That was pretty tasty. But my lemon sorbet is the exception. I will not be going back to that restaurant. What about you, Alyssa?
Favorite foods. So it was interesting hearing how much you talked about like different chocolate options in Switzerland. Some of you guys may know, you may not know, Switzerland is really big in their chocolate game, and so we did get to go to the Lindt Chocolate Factory. And so sorry, I thought there was a bug on my bed. And so that was a cool experience. However, I'm not a chocolate girl, so I didn't care. I was just singing my Wonka songs all the way through, but that's a separate story. If you know, you know. Cue Angel's eye roll. But favorite things that I did eat, I would say once we hit Spain, I did enjoy some of the food that I had in Switzerland. It just didn't make my like top list. Nothing in Germany was gonna make the list. But the first night in Spain, I took us to like this Colombian restaurant and I had an arepa, which was so good. It was so tasty. That was the best thing I ate on the entire trip. And I would say a close second, we did a cooking class, which was 4 hours, you guys. There was no need. It was a great class. The instructor was phenomenal, but like 4 hours is just entirely too long. And I understand because they incorporated like going to the market and it was very educational and all the things. Let's just do it and get it done. I'm all about efficiency and just moving forward. But anyway, we made paella and gazpacho and sangria, and that paella was so tasty that we made. So those were kind of my top two. And on that note, with food and different things in the cooking class, what would you say? We did a lot of different activities and types of things. So instead of taking you guys through the whole thing, which, fun fact, we actually filmed an episode or version of this episode where we just took you through the whole itinerary day by day. And then we both decided that that was actually kind of boring. And so we're just going to hit you with some of our highlights. So, Angel, what were some of like the highlight activities for you that stood out?
Hmm. 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 I'd say, I'd say one of my favorite things was when we went to an art museum, which Elsa wasn't there because she was visiting um an office for her job. and she doesn't like museums. So we went without her. We went to an art museum in Madrid, and I really liked it. Well, the first half, I didn't really love because it was just a bunch of like Spanish Catholic paintings, and like, yes, we love Jesus. Yes, so slay. But seeing so many of those paintings back to back to back, it was kind of repetitive. But some of them are cool. But they had other sections that I really liked, and I got to see art from an artist that I studied this past year in my art class, Joaquin Sorolla, which I didn't know if I was going to see some of his paintings, but I actually did. And so that was so cool to see paintings that I had looked at and studied online and got to see in person. And we saw paintings from Goya. And his stuff was interesting, but it was a bit dark. It was very dark and disturbing. Got some themes of death, cannibalism, a dog drowning. It was, he needed some psychiatric help, but it was still cool to see all the same. So that's one thing I enjoyed. Another thing I enjoyed was getting my shop on. One thing about me is I love shopping. Fashion is my thing. Um, and the whole trip I had been looking around and I wanted to take away like thing, some cute clothing to bring back home, some nice quality clothing. And they didn't see that in Germany. Uh, yeah, I don't know if I saw a single boutique in Germany. Um,
To be
Switzerland,
fair, to be fair, we were only in Germany for like a day and a half, maybe 2 days. So like,
we were there for like 2.5 days. But,
but Angel and
well,
I
okay,
don't
they
think
did, yeah. They had like, they did have clothing spots, but not my type of clothing. And then Switzerland, there were some cute boutiques there. I wish I had more time to like go into them, but they were like smaller and we were like the only people in there and I didn't want to like keep window shopping without buying anything. So I didn't get anything there. And then Spain came along and I was like, this is my last chance. So I was doing my research and then I found this like luxury department store in the area and we went there. And the area we were in, high end guys. You got Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, Dior, all the brands, all the brands. And so we went into this like luxury department store, shopping around, and I found the cutest like twill businessy shirt short set, like think Gossip Girl, which I was watching Gossip Girl on this trip because it was on Netflix in Europe. So kind of brought that part of me to the forefront of my mind. I got the cutest set that I came away with. So slay. So yeah, I belong in that part of Madrid. But yeah, those were probably my two favorite things.
And this is where you guys will very clearly see how different Angel and I are. We were actually talking earlier today about like a trip to Colorado, and I told her that we just simply cannot go together because we like very opposite travel styles, and it's so true. Because both of those things that Angel talked about, like I just, I can walk around, I can be present for that. I'm fine to just like exist while all of that is happening, but I just don't care. I don't find it interesting. I don't find it exciting. I honestly get so bored. I usually end up putting in at least one AirPod just to like play music that I enjoy. And even in the chocolate factory, like guys, I did so much learning on this trip, and I have to put it in air quotes, honestly, because I did not actively learn anything. At the Chocolate Factory, the Royal Palace. I'm so glad I wasn't there for the art museum because I didn't want to hinder Angel's experience. Even the concentration camp, like I learned bits and pieces, but then my brain just checks out. So anyway, I was happy for them, but it was honestly a really big struggle point for me because I was like, I did not come on this trip to be bored. Like it was a really big bummer because the activities I was super excited about doing in Switzerland were either closed or sold out and all the things. And so I was actually really, really, really disappointed and struggled with that because I was like, well, what am I gonna do now? Like that was my thing to look forward to. But um In terms of highlights, I would say that that time while they were at the art museum, I got to meet with the A21 Spain team. So for those who don't know or may have joined us later into the podcast, I work for a global nonprofit that does counter human trafficking work. And so our office in Spain just does very different things than my office does, even though it's similar work, but just looks very different in each of our offices in each country. And so I got to meet them in person, and I was with them for like a little over 3 hours and just had such a great time hearing about what they do, sharing about what we do, and just connecting with them. So that was a top highlight for sure. And then towards the end of the trip, and this is where Angel really belonged. We were in this city that was like way up north in Spain, towards the south of France. Angel and I have always talked about going to the south of France together, and we're really gonna have to make that happen. I've been, and I can attest, like she would love it. But we went up to that area and it was so beautiful. And we did a paragliding activity. And so we each did that. And that is where I decided that I simply was not made to be on land. Like, you can catch me soaring, flying, zipping, falling, swinging, just coasting through the air, gliding, whatever. And I'm so content. I'm so happy. I'm thriving. So paragliding for sure was a top highlight, and I was really glad that we did that because it wasn't initially something we were gonna do. It was kind of out of the way, something that my mom recommended, even though she wasn't there. But shout out to her because that was epic. And then third highlight would be just getting to be there and be moral support, but also like actively check off running of the bulls with my dad. And so we'll share a bit about. So before I start, Angel, where were you when we did the running of the bulls?
I was at the hotel in my bed, asleep, and I had a good night's rest. I did not miss out, no FOMO or anything. And guess what? I'm back perfectly fine, no scratches or nothing.
And guess what? So am I. So am I.
Whatever, 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 blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Angel's also mad that we drank out of the lake in Switzerland, but we'll digress on that.
Y'all were dumb. I didn't see a single other person dipping their hand into that lake to drink the water. Like, oh, the water is so crisp, so pure. Blah, blah, blah. Nah, bro, you're not gonna catch me drinking that water and getting some parasite or something. Absolutely not. And guess what? I'm perfectly fine. Blah, blah, blah.
Guys, none of us got sick. That water was so good. That was God's water. But anyway, the running of the bulls, yeah. Angel was at the hotel. The day before we had gone to get our like white outfits, the red sashes. They sell it like everywhere in the city. They just have all of these different options for white and red combinations, whether you're running or you're just spectating. And so we had gotten our outfits and got up at like 5 o'clock or whenever the boys got up to then leave the hotel at 5:30 in the morning. And we went to the city and it was so filthy, you guys. It was so filthy because it really is like they do this week-long festival. They have a run every single day of the week. And then it's just like party time in between, and people stay up all night drinking, and it's this whole thing. And you can tell because the streets are like wet because they're spraying them down, trying to clean them, and there's just broken cups and glass and like all this stuff everywhere. And it's just like not a vibe when you first get there. But really beautiful sunrise, if that counts for anything. But we got there and my dad wanted us to get there early so that we could walk the route since we didn't get to do that the day before. So we did that, and then when we were on our way back, when you're turns out when you're one of very, very few females who are participating in the run, you become a hot target for news interviews. So that was interesting, and just the briefing questions and different things and whatever. And so after they were like briefing me for the interview, we ended up getting like pushed up against this wall basically, or like they just kind of pushed everybody out of the way as we're still on that road that the run would be taking place on. And we had walked all the way up to the arena, so we were kind of walking back to find where along the route we wanted to stand. I had made it very clear to my dad and my brother, I'm just running for like a few seconds and then I'm getting out of the way. I'm just doing it to say I did it. I'm not trying to make it to the arena. I'm not trying to outrun any of the bulls. Like, I'm just here to say I did it. And so with that, I was trying to find a good spot just to be able to like jog and then pop into a little doorway or basically just be out of the way safely and not get trampled by a person or a bull. But then we get packed in like sardines because they're clearing the middle of the road to have some group of people walk through. And I'm not like entirely positive what who those people were, but that's beside the point. That was a moment that I understood how people die getting trampled at like concerts and stuff because like that was honestly kind of terrifying in its own right. But then they released everyone, and I was really, really glad that we did one of the runs in the middle of the week instead of like towards the beginning or the end of the festival because we were talking with some of the people who had done the run before. Some people do this run like every day that week, and people train all year long for this. Like, this is a whole serious thing. And so they were showing us some pictures and stuff from the first couple of days, and people are like packed in worse than sardines along the whole route. And so I was like, oh gosh, okay, this is a lot. But because we went in kind of the middle of the week, it was a bit more clear, at least where we ended up standing. And so that was a relief. That was kind of a God thing I was super thankful for. However, before it started, between like a couple people with the news stations or like this one police officer or a couple of the like participants slash spectators, they all were asking me like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Or like, are you actually running? And basically kind of asking me if I was participating. And I was like, yeah, of course. Yay. And then they all had this same look. Like if I could just replicate it, like you guys would understand. They had this same exact look of concern and like fear for my life, where they were like, hey, please be very careful. Like I can't count the number of times I heard that said, and people just giving advice and different things on what to do. And then I'd kind of try to brush it off and be like, oh, like I'm not trying to go very far, like I'm not trying to make it to the arena or whatever. That seemed to honestly make it worse. And so especially when they asked like, oh, did you train for this? Sure didn't run for a hot second before that trip. So it instilled a lot of fear in some people, and the police officer who spoke to us about it, he said like he would never do it himself, and I was kind of like, okay. And actually shared that the last person to officially die in one of the runs was one of his friends. And so that was kind of a moment where I was like, right, uh-huh, okay, what am I doing? But then at the same time, there's this other part of my brain that takes over that's like, okay, yes, however many people die each year doing this, but like thousands of people live through this every year, so I'm gonna be okay. That was my thought process to kind of just convince myself, like, hey, we're still doing this. So then we're basically positioned at a point that's kind of the midpoint of the run route, and this route is like maybe a quarter mile, like maybe. So it's super short. And I had known just from reading articles and watching videos and all the different things, kind of prepping for this, that basically what you'd hear when it started at 8 o'clock, there'd be one rocket that lets you know the bulls have been released. There's a second rocket that lets you know the last bull left the pen. And all these articles said like you'll feel the bulls and hear them like before you see them, and you'll hear the screams, etc., blah blah blah. So that's kind of what I'm going through in my mind of like what I've read and just coaching myself through it internally. Meanwhile, everyone around us is like stretching and warming up and jogging and like doing intense running warm up style things. And so I was like, oh, okay, as I'm standing completely stationary. And my dad and brother are both kind of like, oh, let me do this little stretch type warm up thing too. And just trying to figure out what we're supposed to be doing. And so then at some point before, I think it was before the first rocket went off, there was this group of guys who we saw kind of jogging in our direction, jogging past us, and they looked like they kind of knew what they were doing. So my dad's kind of like, "Oh, they look like they know what's up. Like maybe I should take off." And we're like, "Yeah, okay, go for it. Like I'll catch you later." I told them, "I'm gonna jog my few seconds, get out of the way, and then I'm headed to the car. Like that's it. I'm not going to the arena. I'm not doing any of that. I'm headed to the car. I had the keys. That was it." So my dad took off, and I basically let them know, like, do not worry about me. Like, you don't have to start where I start. Like, just run your race. I'll run mine. We'll be good. So then it's just my brother and I who are left, and my brother and me who are left. And so then the first rocket goes off. And at this point, people are still warming up and stretching around us, but now they're like hugging each other and they're like, I love you so much, like, stay safe or whatever. And so my brother turns to me because we're both like, oh, wow, what are we doing? And he was like, I kind of feel like I should have told dad I love him before he left. And I was like, yeah, mm-hmm. And so then I think the second rocket went off. Honestly, I don't fully remember the timeline of everything, but at some point there are more people jogging past us, and now there are starting to be some people who are running a bit quicker past us. And so my brother was kind of, I could see him kind of getting not antsy, but just moving a bit more. And so he's like, I think this is where I take off. And I was like, yep, okay, dapped him up. It's like, stay safe, don't die. That's kind of our thing. And so he kind of hits a little athletic shuffle, a little stride before he starts jogging. And so then it's just me. And so I'm standing there like, okay, I'm watching the crowd around me and I'm watching the incoming crowd. And as I see people starting to like run, sprinting full speed towards me, you can just see this crowd like moving. I think I lost all my senses. Everything I read about like you feel the bulls and you hear the screams, whatever, none of that mattered. All of a sudden it went into like this crowd is coming, which means there are bulls somewhere close behind them, which means I should probably run. And so I ran a little bit further than I intended initially to run just because I got a little bit competitive because there was an elderly man who stopped where I was going to stop. And I was like, I'm a bit more athletic than that. So, like, I'm going to make it a little bit further. And so ran. And then at that point, just kind of jumped out of the way. Didn't even look back to see where the bulls were. None of that. Like, I was getting to safety. I wasn't getting trampled. That was that. So I'm now standing in this doorway. And as I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, I could probably take my phone out of my pocket and take a video to get the bulls passing. That'd be pretty cool. I'm thinking that, and I kid you not, the bulls were nowhere in sight until they were right there. Like it happened in the blink of an eye. And so that was a very startling moment because they weren't aggressive or anything like that. Like these bulls were just running their race. But these are like massive, powerful animals that just are blazing past me. And so I was like, okay, wow. So then they run, crowd is with them, whatever, cool. They close the gate in front of me because I had read that that's what they do along the route to keep the bulls from risking like turning back around or whatever. So the gate is closed, and then I'm like, okay, good. My race is over. I'm gonna head to the car. People are jumping over the fence or whatever and like greeting the people that they knew participating, and they're on their phones, and like it's super chill now. So then now I'm standing in the absolute middle of the road, walking back to the car and or trying to like find a little exit on the road that I was on. And then all of a sudden, and I'm just chilling. All of a sudden I see people starting to jog past me again, and I'm walking the opposite direction that the run just happened. So these people are jogging in the direction that the bulls had just run, and I was like, okay, that's really embarrassing for you because the gates are closed and the run is over. So like, what are you doing? And so I just keep walking. Then I start seeing people running past me, and I mean like tripping over themselves running past me. And at this point, I'm like frozen in the middle of the street, like eyes wide, hands up, like what is happening? Because I realize like something's going on. And so I'm frozen there. And then I'm seeing like more and more people starting to sprint past me. For some reason, I looked and turned behind me and I saw that the gate that they had closed was actually reopened. And so that's when it hits me like there are more bulls coming. And I kid you not, guys, like full on cartoon style, because remember, those bulls weren't there before until they were right there. So I don't have time to think, I don't have time to plan, I don't have time to get to the door I was or the exit I was trying to get to. I hit the meanest 180 and I am now sprinting for my life for this one like post on the side of the gate to try to just like get really close up against that and just be out of the way. And so I'm like not looking behind me, not worried about how close these bulls are. I just know that they're coming. I get behind this gate and I've probably never run so fast in my entire life. Like I was full fight or flight terrified. Like not even a full second after I got to that gate, this group of bulls just blazes past me. And my heart dropped. My hands are physically like I am trembling. I am shaking with fear. And it was over after that. So like that was the last group. I walked to the car. The worst feeling in the world, honestly, was walking to the car not knowing if anything had happened to my dad or brother. Fortunately, they were fine. My dad made it to the arena, and that's like a whole thing. We may have to have them pop on for a second to tell you guys more of that story. So maybe we'll do like a Instagram video or something to get both of their perspectives because they each have their own story for that. But yeah, that was my terrifying experience running with the bulls. It is by far the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life, scariest thing I've ever done in my life. However, I would be open to doing it again if for some reason I was presented the opportunity and in the area and not paying for myself and all the things. So, yeah. With that note though, shout out to our dad because he like paid for this trip and all the different things and planned so much of it. And so just didn't want to miss the opportunity to thank him publicly for all that he did in making this happen. But yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. Angel, if you want to hit up our challenge for this episode.
Our challenge for this week's episode is like not, it's different from our other ones. And basically, we want you guys to like think of your dream place to travel to, like whether that be a country or just like another state. But traveling internationally is such a unique experience that you can't really get um any other way. And think of like a plan of how you can make that happen. And obviously, it is very difficult to travel internationally for a lot of people, and that is okay. But just think about how you could possibly make this dream happen or do something similar to get like a unique cultural experience. And from there, just see where you can go from there, and who knows how God might make your dreams become a reality.
Yeah, and with that, guys, we just want to encourage you to like plan it out. Like, think about if there are restaurants you know of in the area you want to go to, or activities to do, and all the different things, like dream big and invite God into that, and you'll never know what He might do with that. So, with that challenge, I'll go ahead and pray us out. God, we just thank you so much for another day and bringing us together to record another episode. We thank you for your love and mercy in keeping us safe as we were adventuring through Europe those couple of weeks, and especially for giving us safety as we did the running of the bulls. Side note, thank you for giving Angel a beautiful night's rest that day. And I just pray for each and every single person listening, ourselves included, that we will just dream big in this season and imagine this grand, beautiful world that you've created and all the places that we can go within that. And you've just created so many beautiful things to see and so many different cultures that you've cultivated and built up, and communities and languages and so many different things. And so I just pray that you'll be with us as we dream about what it looks like to experience some of that, and honestly, through that, even experiencing you in new ways. And so, God, I just pray that you will inspire each and every single person and just put something on our hearts, because you are the author of fun and laughter and creativity. And you've given us so many different blessings to allow us to travel. And so I know resources and time and so many different things, responsibilities can restrain people. But God, I just pray that you will continue making ways where there seems to be no way. And I just pray for divine provision and protection, and just lighting a path for people to experience ultimately you in all of those things. And so I just pray that you continue to show up for us in new ways, and just thank you for being such a loving and perfect and good father. And I thank you for wanting to walk us into such beautiful moments and memories, and pray that you continue to speak to us, myself, Angel, and every single person listening. Continue to speak to us, reveal to us more of who you are, and just show yourself as mighty, powerful, and strong. And just pray that you continue to use us as vessels of your light and love to all of those who are around us, and just continue to give us the words to say to continue bringing people into closer community and relationship with you. And I thank you for the community that you've allowed us to begin building through this podcast and just through this Girls Wing squad of sorts. And just pray that you continue to grow it, and pray that you continue to grow it in whatever ways growth looks like in your mind and in your will. And we just surrender to you all of our plans, thoughts, actions, words, and just our lives and our hearts. And we pray all these things in your name. Amen.
And that's all we have for this episode today. We hope you guys enjoyed. And if you have more questions about our trip or more things you want us to talk about more in depth, make sure to let us know and we can talk about it on here or on Instagram or something. But that's all we have for you guys today. We'll be back with our usual content soon, but we have some exciting things going on in our lives right now. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and we hope you like this episode. And that's all we have for the girl.
Stop. You're now saying the same thing over and over and over
Sorry,
again.
girl, whatever.
I was just like waiting for you
Anyway,
to be done.
we hope you um anyway,
Yeah, that's all we have
so
for you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
bye.
Yeah, okay. The end.